I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions, and I'd like to go back to Mr. Goldsmith. So we talked a lot in the first panel about outreach to veterans. Can you talk a little bit about your experience? And you said you interact with many veterans who find themselves in the same situation. Can you talk about whether you find that outreach to be effective? Is it clear? Does it provide people the information they need to try to seek care when they previously were not eligible or believed they might not be eligible due to some changes over time?
So I think thank you for the question. I think that your panel here is presenting something that you don't often see. You usually have critics of the VA or defenders of the VA. We are both. We realize that the VA is key to saving these veterans' lives. But I can tell you that as an avid consumer, as a veteran advocate, I'm an avid consumer of all VA material. And I have only been aware of 2 campaigns to do outreach, which is the mailing campaign, which they didn't get to talk about the numbers, was not very successful. They had a lot of, I think, maybe hundreds of thousands, if not tens of thousands, of letters that got returned. They also posted on their VA blog, which people like me read. I can't say that many of the people I served with read the VA blog. And they did a 1 or a 2 hour Facebook Live where they answered questions. That's the only outreach that I'm aware of. And I can tell you that homeless veterans are not getting a letter in the mail. And veterans who are discharged with bad paper are much more likely to be homeless. Veterans who are homeless are not likely to be on Facebook, to see that Facebook Live. So there is much more that can be done, and Congress shouldn't leave it up to the VA to do it. Congress needs to make the VA do it. It needs to be through legislation.
And through the work that you do through veterans advocacy, how frequent are these requests that you receive? Not necessarily the frequency, because I know you specialize in that specific area, but how much of a lack or delta of information versus the facts that these are the policies, procedures, process is there? I mean, when people come to you, they may think, well, I have this other than honorable discharge, I'm not eligible.
Sure.
How much hand-holding, for lack of better terms, is required from someone who's been through the process like you have yourself to actually get them through the process successfully?
So I'm not a lawyer. I cannot assist people with their cases, with their claims. I'm not qualified to do that. What I am is a fellow veteran, and I'm willing to help my sisters and brothers who have signed on the dotted line. I don't care what their characterization of service was. When you sign up for service, you're rolling the dice with fate. You could be rewarded the Medal of Honor, or you could be a homeless veteran. It really depends on just the circumstances that you land in. It's not about you. I think most veterans, when they're being honest, will tell you that. Now, the VA Form 1010-EZ is an application to get enrolled in the VA system. If you've been told since your discharge, whether it be last year or back in 1970 towards the end of the Vietnam War, that you are not eligible for VA healthcare, you're not going to apply because you've been trained to expect rejection from the VA. That's why we keep harping on the idea that there needs to be a specific form that says, I, the veteran, am applying for a characterization of discharge review. That also gives you, Congress, a form that you can track and you can hold VA accountable. If there is a dedicated form, it's easy to siphon out. You can find out, is the VA, like the Army, like the Marines, denying more black veterans access to benefits than white veterans? I think that those kinds of disparities are important, and that's why we need a dedicated form. Now, as far as the hand-holding that I need to do, I can guarantee that tonight, Facebook Messenger, Twitter, I'm going to be getting all sorts of messages. I have a uniquely spelled name. I'm easy to find. I'm going to be getting emails from veterans all around the country who don't trust the VA, who unfortunately may have had a bad first response, may have walked into the VA, sat down with a benefits counselor and been told, sorry, you're not a vet. It doesn't matter if they have a Purple Heart. It doesn't matter if they serve 2 or 3 tours. It doesn't matter if they watch their buddy get their head blown off. They say, you're not a vet. Do you think they're going to come back to the VA and fill out a VA form 1010 easy? No. So they have to come to people like me, not a lawyer, to help them and counsel them and convince them that the VA is different now. It won't turn you down. And I'm not always right. I mean, the Harvard report was recent about their constituents, their veterans going into VA hospitals and being turned away, despite all of the recent training.
Well, thank you. And I think my time has expired, so I will now recognize Mr. Boss for 5 minutes.